Hello, my name is Tim Howarth. I'm Chief Executive of United World Schools. We're an educational charity who work in remote and marginalised communities of Southeast Asia to enable children who are out of school to get into education, to learn to read, write and count. And we do that by partnering with organisations from around the world who are committed to supporting education globally. Been given the challenge of trying to describe the entire education industry in just 3 words. I'll give it a go. The words that I thought would be perhaps relevant here are transformative, global and inclusive, and I'll explain each one in turn. So the first word, transformative. As educators, we get out of bed in the morning knowing that what we do has the potential to transform children and young adults' lives. And that's why I think education as an industry globally can be transformative in the 21st century. And I think that actually links to the second word, global. We're living in an ever interconnected world. Modern technology, modern communications enable people to be more and more connected. We're growing up as a global industry in a global world, in a global environment. As a result, I think the education industry, more so than ever, lives in a global ecosystem. And the third word I had was inclusive. Education at its core is entirely cross-cultural, i.e. we work with communities in remote parts of Myanmar, Nepal and Cambodia. We work with some of the best schools and education organisations in the world. When we speak to people, the message that comes across is incredibly clear. Everybody prioritises education, everybody knows of the power of education, and that's a basic human right. Education is at the core of inclusive rights in the 21st century. We live in a world where we have a global commitment to the Global Development Goals, which at their core make perfect sense, to give all children and young adults the opportunity to go to school to learn to read, write and count as a basic right. At its core, that's about inclusion. Of course, this is a big question, and big questions are not solved with one simple, clean answer. However, I think there are certain themes that come through, and just one theme as Chief Executive of United World Schools that we regularly reflect on is the concept of local empowerment. For example, where our projects are successful and where we've seen other fantastic NGOs be successful, at its core is local people taking ownership of local projects and making them work. So where we've been able to locally empower people who are passionate about supporting themselves and others, we're seeing long-term change and long-term successful, sustainable community development. One of the many challenges that we face as an organisation is overcoming the challenge of engaging communities in community projects. And as a golden rule, we only work where we're both wanted and needed. So as a result, what we aim to do with every one of our community development projects is to engage the local people from outset as part of that decision-making process. To some extent, this is about democratisation of the educational development process, i.e. enabling local people to be empowered to take control of locally anchored projects that together, as a partnership, we can foster educational opportunity, develop educational opportunity, and ultimately exit from a project that is well run, well sustained and well governed by locally empowered people. And our partnership with Terrapin, who are sponsoring a brand new community school in a remote community in Cambodia, is a great example of this. Terrapin have committed the funds to getting a school built, to running that school, and as a result 200 or so children will have the chance to go to school to learn to read, write and count. If there are organisations, for example schools or educational organisations or corporate organisations who are interested in hearing more about our work or hearing more generally about educational projects in Southeast Asia, the best way to get in touch is to go to our website, which is United World Schools, where you'll find contact us on the website and details just there. We are very interested in talking to people who are passionate about supporting some of the poorest communities on the planet and passionate about supporting communities who want to work themselves out of a cycle of poverty through education and the opportunities that education provides. The question I've been asked is about the education industry and what do we hope will happen to the education industry over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? I think it's a great question. Obviously, I have no crystal ball, but from a core values perspective, I think it would be terrific if we see an education industry that is taking responsibility for all children on the planet to enable them to go to school, to be able to learn to read, write and count as a basic human right. To some extent, as a result, we'd be connecting those at the elite end of the education spectrum with those who just need a bit of help to get on the first rung of that ladder, i.e. we're connecting some of the best organisations in the education industry with those at the other end of that spectrum. I've had the privilege of being invited to the conference here in Singapore today, and I think the one takeaway for me is that it is inspiring to meet with organisations from actually around the world, not just here in Singapore but globally, who at their core are passionate about developing the education industry. We know that education can transform lives. We know that iterative improvements, development of education, of pedagogy, of schools, of colleges, fundamentally transforms the lives of the young people and young adults who have the opportunity to go to those institutions because of the developments made by an amazing array of people. The educational opportunity that those young people have continues to improve. And for me, that's inspiring. So big thank you to everybody who have pulled together this conference. Big thank you to the team at Terrapin for your support for United World Schools as a charity. Together, we are able to transform lives.